Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Lo and I'm obsessed with vintage fashion. Today's video is the third installment in a series that I do called Where Do I Shop? In this series I just talk about different places online where you can find vintage clothing. If you haven't seen the other two videos in this series, I would highly recommend it just so you're kind of familiar with the criteria that I use to sort of assess and recommend these places. So today I'm specifically talking about more affordable options for buying vintage clothing. A lot of the stores that I've already discussed are sort of at a mid to higher range price point. As always, this video is not sponsored by any of these companies. I'm just presenting this information for your benefit. As a general note before dissecting these places, pretty much none of the retailers that I'll be talking about, Shein and Amazon namely, are the two that I'll be diving into today. They're not really going to be considered ethical or sustainable. That seems to be the sort of double-edged sword. That seems to be a problem with finding affordable clothing in general, not even just vintage style clothing, but any kind of clothing these days. Moral of the story is, if you find yourself struggling to buy things and you're on a budget, I personally don't see any moral failure there. And chances are, if you can't afford like a $50 dress from Unique Vintage, you aren't going to be contributing to the problem of people buying gigantic hauls from Shein or Amazon. So I don't really think you need to concern yourself with the morality of it too much. You've just got to do what you've got to do for yourself. I think when it comes to buying from a fast fashion retailer like Shein, as long as you're not buying the clothing just to wear it once and then instantly throw it away, that's fine. Okay, that is enough of my moral disclaimers for the day, so let's get on with it. So first I'll be talking about Shein. While most of Shein's clothing is pretty up to date with modern fashion trends, you'd be surprised at how many vintage inspired things that they have on their website. Ever since cottagecore has gotten big as an internet aesthetic, they've really kind of hopped on to that trend, which cottagecore takes a lot of heavy inspiration from vintage styles, especially the Edwardian era and the 1970s Prairie Revival movement. So if either of those things interest you, or if you like cottagecore in general, Shein has got you covered. If you do just a simple search on their website of the words like vintage dress, like you will be swimming in a results page filled with like fit and flare dresses, circle skirt dresses, dresses with puff sleeves, dresses with collars, plaid dresses, swing dresses, polka dot dresses, prairie dresses, sheath dresses, pinafore dresses, everything that you could think of. In addition to having a lot of cottagecore things, they also have a lot of like 60s mod inspired fashion too, which can also blend into like the 70s too. So if you're a 60s, 70s sort of vintage person, Shein might have some great options for you. I'm more of a 1940s, 50s vintage person, and I wouldn't say that they've had a ton of things that I've bought and enjoyed. But I actually earlier this year was trying out cottagecore, and I bought a few cottagecore like maxi dresses, and they're really pretty. All of their stuff is pretty affordable, I would say. Most of their dresses are cheaper than $30. A lot of them are cheaper than even $20. Some, if they have a sale or if you have a coupon code, you can get for like 10 bucks. As far as quality goes, it kind of depends from item to item. I've bought a couple like tops and stuff from Shein that have literally fallen apart like when I like try them on. That's an exaggeration, but kind of the gist. They aren't the most well made sometimes, but the cottagecore dresses that I mentioned a moment ago, I bought them back in January when I was kind of broke, and they have held up really well this whole year. Some of the linings, like the dresses that I have like linings and underskirts sewn into them, and they've ripped and I've had to re-sew them, but that's more because I have a tendency to rip clothing because I'm not really careful. And they do use a lot of like polyester and other synthetic fabrics that aren't super eco-friendly, but honestly, if you plan on buying it and reusing it over and over and over again and not just throwing it away when you get bored of it, I think it holds up pretty well. It doesn't look cheap and plasticky like a lot of cheaper vintage reproduction clothing can. For their sizing, again, it kind of depends from item to item because they do have a plus size section on their website, but a lot of their cottagecore style dresses only go up to size 12 in US women's dress sizes, and that is not great. Like I said, their plus size section I think goes up to size 20. Still a lot of room for improvement in there. However, their sizing in general can be pretty inconsistent, so I would recommend just checking it out for yourself and seeing what they offer. Next up, I'll be talking about Belle Park. If you haven't heard of them before, Belle Park is an online vintage reproduction retailer that sells through Amazon, but they also have their own website. The fact that they sell independently from Amazon I think is great, because a lot of people like to avoid shopping from Amazon because of their work practices. But just as a general note, some clothing that they offer on Amazon isn't offered on their website and vice versa, so you might just want to double check that before you buy anything. I first noticed Belle Park on Amazon a few years ago when I was looking at some vintage inspired stuff on Amazon from a shop called Grace Karen. I don't know if Grace Karen and Belle Park are owned by the same parent company or not, but it seemed like they essentially sold the same products for a little while. They had a lot of the same fabrics and styles, and sometimes you would order from one place and it would come, but the tag would say the other one. At this point in time, Grace Karen, at least on their independent website, doesn't seem to really sell vintage inspired things anymore, though they still do on their Amazon shop. So I don't really know what's going on there. Belle Park sells clothing inspired by the 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, and even some like medieval Renaissance fair type stuff. I haven't really had a bad experience shopping from them. They really do specialize, I think, in like 50s style, like sundresses and swing dresses and circle skirts and whatnot. I own a few skirts made by them, which you can see in my back to school style video from a couple weeks ago. And they're honestly a lot better quality than I ever expected. I wasn't sure what to expect when I first ordered them, but as I said before, a lot of cheaper vintage retro brands can feel a bit too plasticky and like a Halloween costume. Belle Park's clothes seem pretty natural to me. The skirts I own are made of polyester, but it's not like a overly plasticky feeling. It's just kind of like silky and soft. I also used to have a similar skirt in the same style as my other ones that was a plaid skirt, and it was made from cotton actually, so it was like really soft and like really nice and pretty warm too. To me, Belle Park's clothing feels like much nicer quality than Xian's clothing and holds up over time just a little bit better, and they're roughly the same price point. Most of their clothing is in the $20 to $30 range. They have pencil dresses and flare dresses and halter tops and cardigans and A-line skirts and plaid skirts, and as I said, even some like Renaissance fair looking dresses, all for less than $30 each. However, their sizing is not the most inclusive. Most of their stuff only goes up to 2X, so that is something important to keep in mind. For whatever reason, a lot of these cheaper brands don't really go up in size that much, which is really unfortunate. In general, on Amazon, there are so many other retailers that sell vintage inspired clothing too, not just Belle Park and Grace Karen. If you just go on Amazon and search vintage dress, 1950s skirt, 1940s cardigan, whatever, so many search results will come up, and they're probably all going to be about the same quality, which isn't terrible quality by any means. It's probably not made in the most ethical or sustainable of ways. But again, refer to my spiel from the beginning of this video. There are a lot of other websites out there that are pretty similar to everything I just said about Shein and Amazon. One that comes to mind is Simple Retro. I keep getting ads for that. I haven't bought anything from them, and I haven't really looked at their website too much, but that is something to keep in mind. As well as, I know AliExpress has a lot of vintage inspired clothing too. So it's sort of the same just across the board. As far as other affordable options go, I'm going to be making a separate video in this series about thrifting and resale apps at some point. I'm not sure when. But other than that, keep your eyes peeled for sales and coupon codes on the other websites that I've talked about in my previous videos. Especially Unique Vintage and Collective, I've noticed, have a lot of sales. At least once a year, Collective has this huge 50% off sale where a lot of their clothing, except for whatever their brand new season is 50% off, which is great because that means that, you know, a dress that might usually be $60 is $30. Boom. That's Amazon price. You do have to kind of keep your eyes peeled for that. I know this year Collective's 50% off sale was on Summer Bank Holiday. I just had to look it up. Summer Bank Holiday, because they're a UK-based brand. Sort of, I guess, similar vibe to like a US Labor Day sale. Almost everything was 50% off, which is like insane. So really, 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 I cannot stress enough how helpful those sales can be. Unique Vintage also sends out like 15% off and 20% off coupon codes to first-time buyers if you sign up to their newsletter. They also have a lot of sales going on. Like, I think as of the time that I'm filming this, they're currently having like a 30% off all their Halloween clothing sale, which is crazy because Halloween isn't even over yet and they're already putting all of this stuff on sale. So that's really helpful if you're still concerned with you know, ethics and sustainability, or particularly concerned with sizing options. Websites like Unique Vintage and Collective and their sales, even though even though they don't happen like year round and they don't have those prices year round, really, really, really cannot stress enough how helpful those sales are. I hope that this video helps some of you who are maybe thinking about getting into vintage fashion, or who have been into vintage fashion for a while and you're still on a budget. No matter what your situation is, you always deserve to wear clothes that make you feel happy and confident and like your best self. Thank you so much for watching. I don't know when I'll be doing the next video in this series, probably sometime within the next month, but I will finally be talking about my thrifting tips and my experiences with resale apps. So be sure to subscribe if you want to see more content like this. I upload videos every Wednesday, and I hope to do more fun videos soon. So much love to all of you. Bye.